So this is, in my opinion, the best double cast on crit setup you can run this league. And I know a lot of you are probably tired of seeing me play so much cast on crit. This is probably the last iteration of any sort of cast on crit that I'll be running this league, so I'll spare y'all. If you haven't already, you should go take a look at the Ngamahu's video, and that explains the fundamental building blocks in which I'm using to set up this build. But basically what's different from that is I'm now focused around using the Martyr of Innocence staff, which has Vengeance as a secondary cast on critical strike trigger. What I've been doing has been done before this league, and it's been done since week 1 of this league, with a lot of Inquisitors for some reason running Martyr of Innocence as a trigger for cast on crit, and they've also been using Bladefall Blade Blast as their setup. But I still figured that I update people on what I'm running. The biggest difference between this iteration of the build and prior iterations is that I'm much more defensive now. So there's 3 main defensive features that I didn't have before. The first is having about 70% block, the second is having endurance charges naturally generated, and the third is overleech. So let's talk about overleech first. I'm now running Petrified Blood, and this gives me both overleech and low life, which I think is super worth it, especially if you're not running life gain on hit and you sort of need, more natural forms of generation. As far as the defensive and other mechanical changes go, there's 3 core uniques that I'm switched out and that I've switched in. So Martyr of Innocence is now in for the weapon instead of Ngamahu's. A Scold's Bridle is being used in the helmet slot instead of a rare, and I'm using Rumi's Concoction as one of my flasks now to get a higher block rate. As mentioned, Martyr of Innocence is a built-in trigger with a Vengeance, and Vengeance is a counter attack, which triggers anytime that you get hit. And because it's an attack, it can trigger cast on crit. And the way that we're making sure that we get hit ourselves is through Scold's Bridle, which damages you anytime you spend mana. In this case, I'm spending a tiny amount of mana with Cyclone, and then that's actually triggering Vengeance, which is then further triggering cast on critical strike. The nice part about using Martyr of Innocence is that it actually brings a lot of damage to the table as well. Not only does it have the built-in fire penetration, but it also has Battle Mage, and Battle Mage gives you added damage equal to your weapon to your spells. So in the case of Martyr of Innocence, that's about 600 damage, which is absolutely huge. The other benefit of using Martyr of Innocence is that it's a staff, so staffs have higher base crit than axes, and they also have much better nodes around the tree to take that give you, better crit multi, they give you block, they give you charge generation. And I think that because we're running Martyr of Innocence, Inquisitor is actually not a good option anymore. We get so much penetration from both Martyr of Innocence and Ephagon, and now we get a built-in Battle Mage, so there aren't really enough high-value Ascendancy nodes to take on Inquisitor. So I think in terms of Ascendancy, Assassin really becomes top-notch now, with maybe some Ascendant, Scion, Pathfinder combos coming in second, and then probably a pure Pathfinder coming in last. So as you can see, the changes were minimal, but the defensive benefits were huge. And sometimes it's the simplest changes that are the best ones.